YouTube, what's really good? It's your man Ribs from Doing Film Things. Every single week I put out a new video about film photography. So if that's your thing, definitely go ahead and subscribe. All right, film friends, I'm really sorry to confirm for you, but Cinestill is not making E6 slide film. Unfortunately, that just isn't really too realistic given their business model. They do repurpose a lot of Kodak cinematic film used for Hollywood movies and things like that, but that's just not going to be happening for anything slide related. This bad news did get me thinking though, and I was curious, could I turn Cinestill into slide film using E6 cross-processing? I've been doing a whole lot of cross-processing recently, and I've been enjoying it a lot. And basically, I'll take any average kind of C41 film, process it with E6, and although the results do vary a lot, I have been getting some interesting, very cool looking slides out of typical cheap film. So for example, in the video above, you'll see that I turned Kodak Color Plus into slides. I also turned some old school expired C41 film from about 2005 into slides as well. Both yielded very interesting results, definitely usable results, and you definitely get that experience of having color images, color positive images on your slides. It's really rewarding and it also feels really good to see. So the question remains, can I do this with Cinestill? Why not? So I let my curiosity get the best of me and I definitely went ahead and gave this a try. Cinestill is quite expensive, so I kind of limited how much I would try, but I did go through 2 rolls in order to figure out what could possibly be done to get usable results. Before I talk anymore, here's some footage and some sample images from my recent trial. So I'm walking outside right now. I think it's about 10:30 p.m. or so, and I'm just gonna cruise around and see what I can find out here to take some cool shots of. I'm in London here in Brixton, and it's pretty dead at night here during Corona time, obviously. Usually not like that. Usually it's wild all day long, especially at night. But right now there's nobody out, so I'm gonna start by taking some pics pretty close to where I live and then maybe walk around for half an hour, see what I can get. So you can tell here over my right shoulder is a tripod. I'm basically shooting everything on a tripod because of course it's nighttime. And you know, there's nobody out here and I'm kind of chilling, so I don't mind posting up and just taking my time. Shooting everything at about f8 just to make sure I get things in good focus and easily so I don't have to mess around too much. Most of the exposures right now are hovering just around a second. I think these streets are fairly well illuminated where I've been walking on, so it doesn't really need too much in terms of exposure time. So the exposures are kind of quick. Yeah, f8. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna try to find a couple darker places to really push the exposure just a bit. So I just wrapped up shooting here at night and I can't recommend this enough, honestly. If you live somewhere where there's some interesting stuff to look at even at nighttime, especially somewhere that's well illuminated and has some interesting light here and there, highly recommend you get out there and try it. Just bring a tripod, bring your phone, some music, and I promise you, it's pretty relaxing, especially if you're in a place that's not like particularly like alive or super energetic, if you catch what I'm saying. It's just nice to be out here and the weather is awesome right now, so it's probably the safest way to get out there and enjoy the weather. Nobody around you, nobody to bother, you know, just very calming, so definitely do it. All right, y'all, so what did you think about those images? Are they usable products? Do you think the colors are captured properly and the exposures look all right? Would you do this? Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. All right, so now that you've seen the results of my experimentation, there's 4 things I want to kind of point out with regards to the process and the overall value of doing this. The first and absolutely most important thing about trying to do this process on your own is that when you're shooting the actual images, you have to overexpose them. I typically would recommend that you overexpose by 2, maybe 3 stops. The fact of the matter is that you're shooting at night. And when you do this cross-processing, the E6 process is not designed for Cinestill and therefore does not allow it to capture the best attributes of the film. A lot of your shadow detail and general color and all of that good stuff that Cinestill has to offer kind of disappears, and therefore you really have to overexpose your image to give you a fighting chance at the E6 processing. The first time I did this, I did just normal metering, everything at 0 theoretically, and my images were basically black.
The only thing you would see is some highlight detail, but the shadows and anything even in the middle was just completely gone. So the second time I did this, I decided to overexpose all my images by 1 and 2. That was what was allowed with my camera. The images overexposed by 2 definitely got way better results than all of the other ones. I probably would have overexposed by 3 stops, but my camera doesn't allow that with the automatic settings. Of course, if you're shooting fully manual, you can overexpose by whatever you'd like. Additionally, since you're shooting on a tripod, it's very easy to kind of take your time and just meter accordingly if you want to overexpose by 3 stops. So definitely encourage you to do that if you're going to try to convert Cinestill into slide film using E6. The second thing to mention is that you're not going to get full performance of the dynamic range of the film. On top of that, the colors are going to be very different from what you would expect with Cinestill on their normal C41 process. That's just the case of cross-processing. It's going to happen no matter what film you use, but with Cinestill, because of the fact that you're shooting at night in very low light conditions, it's going to be even more dramatic. I find that scenes outdoors that have kind of street lights and then a lot of like dark shadows, those are going to be very hard to get a nice even exposure even when you overexpose by 3 stops. If you're indoors and you're in a room that's kind of generally lit the same, even if the lighting is low, that works much better because the highs and lows aren't distributed that far apart, and therefore the single exposure you take will capture most of that and kind of average it in the middle. Again, it's still not going to be perfect, so if you're going to do this, just keep that in mind. The third thing that you want to think about is the actual slides themselves after you're done processing. You know that joy you get of looking at fresh slides coming out of the developing chemicals and being like, wow, this is pretty cool? You're not going to get that as much with the Cinestill. What you get is slides that have really interesting colors and the highlights really pop and kind of catch your eye. But then again, that shadow detail is very muted, so you're not going to see it very apparently on the slides themselves unless you have a really powerful light table. Nonetheless, I think if you're overexposed by 3 stops, then you're really going to start to get usable results with regards to the shadows. The last thing you want to consider is that Cinestill is expensive, and it really depends where you are in the world obviously, but here in the UK the prices range from £15 to £18. If you convert that to US dollars, you'll see a big disparity there in the price. So ultimately the question is, do you want to do this with Cinestill? And honestly, like after experimenting, I don't think I want to do this again. It's cool to do it, and it was nice to see that I could achieve it with, you know, not that amazing results, but still usable results. But I don't think it's a great use of Cinestill, not only because of the price, but because of how good the film is on its own when you do C41 process. Here's a comparison of the same image that I took at 2 different times. One was shot with Cinestill and processed with C41, and the other was also shot with Cinestill but processed under E6. It's a night and day difference, and it's very dramatically different. Obviously, it's up to you which one you think looks better and if you want to do this, but for me, I just don't think it's worth it. I had a good time experimenting, but I think I'm done experimenting. So if you ask me if I was to recommend cross-processing, I'd definitely say yes, but not for Cinestill. I think daylight film that you shoot outside in the bright sun with a lot of detail in the shadows and that kind of thing, will look pretty cool in terms of E6 processing. Those slides, when you hold them up to the light, they're actually very inspiring, and they give you that really cool feeling you get when you see color positive on negatives. However, with Cinestill, you don't quite get the same feeling, especially if you're shooting at night. So I don't want to discourage you from cross-processing because I think it's a very valuable experience, and you should definitely do it, especially with cheaper color film that's shot in daylight. Ultimately, Cinestill is just too expensive and doesn't really yield the results that are worth doing this. I do plan on doing this with a lot of other different film stocks, especially things like Portra and like very popular stocks. So definitely stay tuned for some more of those videos. So that's what I got for you today, YouTube. Definitely go ahead and leave me a like if you learned something from this video or if you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more videos like this, definitely go ahead and subscribe. I drop a video every single week, so please check me out. All right, y'all, until the next video, peace.